We need to talk about what's going on in Canada's housing market because honestly, it's a huge puzzle. On one hand, we're told there's this massive, crippling housing shortage, but on the other hand, we're hearing that national home prices are actually forecast to fall. So how can both of those things be true at the same time? Let's get into it.
Everything, and I mean everything, boils down to this one single number, 3.5 million. It's a staggering figure, and it's really at the very heart of Canada's entire housing story. But what does it actually represent?
Well, according to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, the CMHC, that's the gap. That's how many extra homes we need to build by 2030. And that's on top of what we're already planning to build, just to get us back to the kind of affordability we had nearly 2 decades ago. The scale of this problem is just immense.
And that brings us right back to our central paradox. Basic economics tells us low supply, high demand, prices go up. So if we're short millions of homes, why on earth are we seeing forecasts for a national price drop? It just doesn't compute at first glance, right? So let's dig in and figure out what's really happening here.
Okay, so to understand the falling prices part of this mystery, we need to look at the short-term big picture view. All the data is pointing to this nationwide market cooldown that's happening right now and is expected to roll right into next year.
So take a look at these numbers. The one to really focus on is that forecast for 2025. You see it right there? After a tiny little bump this year, the average home price across the country is expected to actually fall by 1.5%. And that drop isn't happening in a vacuum. You can see it's tied directly to a slowing economy and weaker job growth.
So why the chill? Well, it's pretty much a perfect storm of economic headwinds. You've got global uncertainty making people nervous, a softer job market, and potential buyers who are just feeling fragile and deciding to wait it out on the sidelines. Plus, you've got slightly lower immigration targets easing some of that population pressure, and in some of our biggest cities, the number of homes for sale has shot up to a 10-year high.
But here's where the story gets really interesting, and frankly, a lot more complicated. That national forecast, it's hiding a huge secret. Canada is not one single housing market, not even close. It's really a bunch of very different regional markets, and some of them are moving in completely opposite directions. This is the Great Divide.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the prairies in Quebec. Their markets are pretty balanced, inventory is tight, and prices are expected to grow modestly and stably. But then you look at Ontario and BC. It's a totally different world. They're dealing with a flood of homes for sale and are bracing for the steepest price drops in the whole country. It's gotten to the point where people are literally voting with their feet, leaving those high-cost provinces for the prairies, which just fuels this divide even more. And this is so crucial to understanding the paradox. That 3.5 million home shortage, where is it really? Well, you can see it's incredibly concentrated. Ontario and BC together make up more than 60% of that entire national shortfall. So this is the epicenter of the long-term supply crisis, even while their short-term prices are getting chilly. All right, let's zoom in even further. To really get a feel for this regional split, you have to see what's happening on the ground, at the city level. The differences are just stark.
Let's start in Toronto. I mean, this quote from a recent PwC report, wow. It doesn't get much more blunt than that, does it? It just perfectly captures the mood in the country's largest real estate market, especially for condos, which are such a huge part of it.
You have this glut of inventory, and you have individual investors getting spooked and backing away. That's putting massive pressure on Toronto's condo market. So now, developers are getting cautious. They're either delaying projects or completely changing gears to build purpose-built rentals instead.
So, that's the story in Toronto right now: falling construction, a struggling condo market, and just this general feeling of wait and see. It's a market that's clearly in correction mode. Now, let's just jump all the way west to Calgary for a completely different reality. The very same report that basically called Toronto's condo market dead had this to say about Calgary. I mean, the contrast could not be more dramatic. Now, this is what a boom looks like. For the third straight year, new home construction in Calgary has hit an all-time record high. What's powering it? It's this powerful mix of a super strong economy and the fastest growing population in the entire country. It's ranked as the #1 market to watch in Canada. Its economy is leading the nation, and people are flocking there. Calgary is absolutely booming. It is the complete flip side of the coin to what's happening back in Toronto.
And you see this pattern everywhere. Just look at the difference between Vancouver, one of the least affordable cities in the world, now facing a population decline, and a place like Saskatoon, which is affordable and its economy is growing faster than any other major city. This tale of two Canadas is playing out all over the map.
Okay, so let's zoom back out. We have these two powerful opposing forces, a short-term market cooldown in some places and a massive long-term supply crisis in others. What does all this actually mean for the future of housing affordability in Canada?
This is probably the most important thing to take away from all this. That temporary price dip, it's a Band-Aid. It doesn't solve the fundamental structural problem. A short-term chill, driven by a weak economy in just a couple of provinces, does almost nothing to fix the fact that, as a country, we are still 3.5 million homes short of what we desperately need.
And here's the real kicker. The very same economic conditions that are causing this short-term price dip are also making it way harder to build our way out of the long-term shortage. Costs for labor and materials, they're soaring. Higher interest rates make it incredibly tough to get the money for these massive construction projects. So, in a twisted way, the current slowdown in construction is actually digging that 3.5 million home hole even deeper for the future.
Which leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? To fix its housing crisis, Canada has to build houses at a pace it has literally never seen before. But in an economic climate that is actively hitting the brakes on construction, the path back to true affordability seems longer and maybe more uncertain than ever.